So what were your thoughts just overall on what this disturbing saga says about the contemporary state of Israel during this, what seems like this kind of endless open-ended war that keeps escalating? I mean, do you have any
Yeah, of
thoughts or
course.
insights?
It's the censorship regime in Israel right now. I mean, they have a military censor, which is absurd by itself. But when the military censor isn't efficient enough, it graduates from military censorship and it goes to the threat of future violence, which is like lawfare and being thrown in jail. Because of course I'm a journalist, but if I refuse to follow orders, I would have had physical harm by the hands of the state done to me. So it graduated from just digital censorship, and now it's gone to the threat of violence by the state. And of course, the threat of violence by the state of Israel towards journalists in Gaza is something that has been happening, this year and in years past. The threat of violence is more than just being held in solitary confinement. The threat of violence is being put on a kill list and being killed. But the fact that that is now, they've graduated from just threatening Palestinian journalists with violence, and they've gone to American journalists inside of Israel. It's supposed to be it's our greatest ally. No one from America helped me out. Israel was trying to charge me with 25 years to life. Like they hold such contempt for anyone who is trying to tell the world what is happening inside of Israel, that censorship does not work on its face. They need to put people physically in a prison, or they need to kill them. They're heightening the courage threshold for journalists to operate inside of Israel so high that no journalist will go there because they might be charged with life in prison. The courage threshold is, are you willing to risk your life? And so that's gonna scare tons of people in the press away who value their own life. The courage threshold is so high that you can't go there right now as a journalist.
As an independent reporter, certainly. I mean, the reporters who have a government press office card have a little bit more protection, and they're not giving them out to anyone outside of mainstream media that's already kind of controlled or can face pressure from the Israel lobby. And you mentioned the violence that is being meted out to Palestinian journalists in Gaza. I think 180 journalists and media professionals in Gaza have been murdered since October 7th. Al Jazeera's entire team in northern Gaza, where Israel is carrying out a massive campaign of ethnic cleansing, which we'll discuss in a minute, was just put on a kill list. This is the quote unquote Israel Defense Forces exposed. 6 Al Jazeera journalists have been exposed as Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists. They don't expose them. They don't provide any information. They just say, here they are, and we're going to kill them.
They just made a graphic.
This is the same thing they did posthumously to Ismail Al-Ghul, the main Al Jazeera correspondent in the Gaza Strip, who was assassinated in a targeted strike. They blew his head off while he was covering just people paying their respects to Ismail Haniyeh's home in the Shati refugee camp in Gaza. And then they said he had been a terrorist who was recruited by Hamas and was in Hamas since a certain date. I think it was like 2007. And that's when he was 10 years old. So they said that he joined Hamas as a militant when he was 10. It was a complete fabrication to just paper over the fact that they blew a journalist's head off. So now they want to kill these guys because they're exposing one of the most hideous stages of this genocide, where about 100 to 170,000 people are being driven south at tank muzzle point with US-made bombs, and at least 50 people are being killed a day. Is there any reason, based on your own experience, to believe Israel could be telling the truth about these Al Jazeera journalists in northern Gaza?
No, I mean, I think it was I think it was Julian Assange who argued and wrote, and that he wrote, "Censorship is a cause for celebration," because it shows that the power structure and the position on the moral high ground is so weak that you need to censor and kill people who are just simply putting out information. It shows that they know that they don't have the moral high ground. They're not acting righteous in this war. They know that they're wrong. So any information that gets out about this war, it needs the people putting out the information need to be killed. They need to be put in jail. They need to be silenced. No information can come out, and like that just kind of shows how weak their actual arguments are, and their power position is. Like they can't have any information get out.
Yeah,
like any information is harmful to them, that's so telling.
And absolutely, I mean, particularly what people are seeing in northern Gaza. I mean, I've been watching this day after day since Israel invaded Gaza, and what I'm seeing there is it doesn't fail to shock me. I think it's important to note that you received a massive outpouring of support, not just from our viewers who are watching this, supporters, and from our colleagues, but also from unexpected sources. I mentioned Committee to Protect Journalists, Freedom of the Press Foundation, the Courage Foundation, and your former boss, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in his pre-Shmuley stage, helped nurture your journalistic career. You did some great journalism for Children's Health Defense. And I reached out to him, and he was immediately responsive. And he attempted to work whatever sources he had, and then issued a statement emphasizing his support for Israel. Basically, no one can deny that RFK Jr. is a huge supporter of Israel. It's very unfortunate. I mean, I've criticized him harshly. I've been very harsh because I think it is a poison pill that undercuts all of the rest of his anti-war activism. But regardless, on pure principle, he stood up for you and asserted that you were a courageous journalist who he had worked with when they were accusing you of not being a journalist. So I think that was critical, and to have all of these other press freedom organizations stand up for you. So we're really grateful to everyone who spoke out. I think that was pivotal in getting Jeremy out. And any thoughts on that, as well as whether the State Department actually did anything on your behalf?
Well, this is a comparison that is so easy to make, and other people have made it. But I'm an American journalist, and I was detained by a client state. So the U.S. government was silent, but we had an American journalist from the Wall Street Journal detained by an official enemy, Russia, and everyone in the media. Jake Tapper was tweeting about it every single day. Everyone in the State Department, everyone in the federal government, they spoke about it every single day. It kind of is it's the worthy victims and unworthy victims. It's like obviously a journalist detained by a client state is a unworthy victim, because you can't there's nothing to you can't manufacture any type of political support for your policies when something bad like that happens. But when your enemy takes an American journalist, you can accuse him of being undemocratic, authoritarian, all of these words. But like no one from the U.S. government or the State Department said anything about me until I left. A journalist was nice enough to say, "Do you have any comment on Jeremy Loffredo?" And the State Department spokesperson said, "I believe Mr. Loffredo has left Israel." And like, okay, I did actively, like, that is what I did. I left Israel, but like I was forced to leave Israel. I was held in solitary confinement. Like, just that passive language makes it seem like I went to the airport and I had a great time in Israel and I left. And that's the fact that the only thing they said is I left Israel is so, that's the only thing that they talk about during my entire stay there. I was, held in solitary confinement. I was effectively tortured, not given any water or food. and all he says is, "I left Israel." It's so shallow and so empty. And to say that that's the only sentence that the State Department said. So I don't believe that they did anything. But maybe a back channel was established and they said this could be a diplomatic nightmare. Please get him out of there. That's possible. But there's no evidence of that.
Let's watch that real quick. And I really appreciate the reporter at least asking this question.
And does the department have any comment about the arrest of U.S. citizen and journalist Jeremy Loffredo in Israel earlier this month? Last we heard, a district court ordered Mr. Loffredo to remain in Israel until October 20th for police questioning. What's his current status?
My understanding is that Mr. Loffredo has left Israel.
What? Well, that was it. I mean, they were clearly monitoring it. They were ready for the question, and
yeah, they knew exactly, because that video, that briefing came out right maybe an hour after I landed in Italy, in Rome, because that's where my flight went to. So they knew within hours of me leaving the country. So they're speaking to the authorities in Israel. They know if I'm in Israel or if I'm not in Israel. They're talking about it. So it is like, you can assume that they were monitoring the situation and that they knew exactly what was happening to me there, and they didn't say anything, deliberately, on purpose. They chose not to advocate on behalf of their own citizen being held by the Netanyahu regime.
Yeah. I think I know that reporter just from the briefing room. He's not Michael Tracy, for those of you wondering. But he's very pro-Israel. Like, I've heard him, before the briefings just go on like rants about how he supports Israel. But he's the one who wound up kind of asking them about it. I think he's from Epoch Times. I'm not sure, but that was important to do. And so I think you get a lot of support from unexpected places. The State Department, I don't know what they did behind the scenes, but publicly they didn't say anything. Another reason I was worried too about you is look at what they did with Gonzalo Lira. They just let him languish in Ukraine and die in a prison cell. We still don't know the full story there. I mean, that's such a bizarre saga. But I hope to learn more. We're still digesting your court documents. Aaron, if you want to join us and, ask Jeremy anything or comment, give me a thumbs up. All right. Welcome to the Grayzone, Aaron Mate. How's it going? What do you think the State Department and their advocacy for Jeremy?
Well, based on what I just heard today, not very impressed. And you think this would be more of a story? Jeremy mentioned the contrast between how not just the State Department, but the U.S. media advocated for Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal, and him. And by the way, like one thing I noticed this is a very minor point, but like one difference also in the way that Jeremy was treated versus Evan Gershkovich is like people weren't afraid to say the name, the Wall Street Journal, that's the outlet that he was reporting for. But I noticed that like even among some of our independent media colleagues, like the Grayzone has cooties, so they feel as if you say the name Grayzone out loud, they might contrast cooties. So they just would avoid the fact that he reports for the Grayzone, which is just another odd aspect of all this. And it speaks to how petty, unfortunately, independent media can be. But yeah, I mean, it's not just the State Department. The way the media just kind of yawned at a client state, as Jeremy talked about, abducting a U.S. journalist and holding him for so long, that was disappointing, but not surprising. And even the people who did speak up on Jeremy's behalf, I have to note, some people felt the need to caveat everything with how much they don't like the Grayzone and blah, 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 blah. And it's just funny. You learn every day new ways in which people have contempt for actual independent adversarial media, to the point where even someone being abducted by a proxy state of the U.S., that's not enough to get them to, just do the minimal thing, which is advocate for his release and not have to apologize for doing so and caveat their pleas for his freedom. Well, Jeremy, since we have you, let's talk about the reporting you did in Israel, Palestine, not just the reporting that led to your abduction, but before that, I mean, listen, you've been doing really important stuff and you deserve a ton of credit for it. What stands out to you from your time there? I mean, for me, the stories you did going to the frontier between Israel and Gaza, where you have Israelis, blockade, cheering the blockade of humanitarian goods and having a good time doing so. That stood out to me. But I'm curious, your thoughts from your extensive reporting there, which was so important.
Well, I think during that time there, I also spent time with covering the settlers who are not thinking about the war right now. They're not thinking about anything in the now. They're only thinking about resettling in Gaza, making Gaza Jewish. And I remember then when I filed that report, and I was talking to Israelis who talk about how they're already planning their neighborhoods and their houses and their yeshivas in Gaza. People are saying, well, yeah, but those people are extremists. They're fanatical. That's not actually the government line or the policy. That's just you just found some fanatics. I said, okay, maybe you're right. I hope you're right. And now we see Itamar Ben-Gvir and different members of the Likud party are throwing events at the border of Gaza, reiterating exactly what those right-wing fanatical Zionists were saying. And I was told that that's not the government line. Now you see Itamar Ben-Gvir and different people of the Likud party calling for the resettlement of Gaza, making Gaza Jewish. Let's build our neighborhoods. Let's open our yeshivas. So I was unfortunately, those people were not correct in saying that wasn't the government line. It just took a couple months for it to be proven true.
Yeah, I mean there have been several, but one in particular, a major conference on settling Gaza, which featured speeches from 7 members of Knesset who are representing the Likud party of Benjamin Netanyahu. But you were one of the first to really get in there and report on this. Wow. Here's Daniela Weiss. Did you meet Daniela Weiss?
No, that's the old lady. No.
It's this nice woman.
Yeah, I didn't meet her.
Take what we acquired. So we plan to take what we acquired in the years of settling Judea and Samaria and to do the same thing here in Gaza. I want to tell you now that in less than a year, each one of you can call me and ask me, did you succeed in fulfilling your dream? And the answer will be yes. Actually, you don't have to call me because you will witness how Jews go to Gaza and Arabs disappear from Gaza.
I mean,
aren't you guys proud to be Jewish right now? Don't you just feel with pride to be Jewish in this moment of time, seeing how our people are? It's this is the representative of our culture right now.
Well, that lady, she's not my people. No. I mean, it's kind of off track, but I was thinking about the book of Exodus, and when Moses sees his brother who is a slave, Moses is taken in by Pharaoh and sees his brother who is a slave, a Hebrew slave, being brutally beaten by the overseer of the Pharaoh, and Moses strikes the overseer, grabs the whip, and beats the overseer to death, and then flees into the wilderness. And it's like the question, who is my brother here? Who is my brother?
And the brother's name is Aaron, right?
Brother Aaron. Yeah. Brother Aaron was Moses's spokesman because Moses had a hoarse voice. He couldn't speak very well. So, maybe if I lose my voice. No, but I'm not comparing myself to Moses. But it's like, are my brothers just?
I don't foresee me ever having to speak for you, man.
Is Daniela Weiss my sister? This freakish Judeo-Nazi woman? No. Like, who's my brother? Like, I'm Jewish, but I'm also a member of the human family. So if I see people being abused, that's. That I think back on that tale and I think, what would Moses do? And you have Zionists just think, do they have J positive blood? Well, therefore they're my brother. And if they're not on my side, then they're self-hating Jews. Everybody is looking at the footage of everyone is watching this, or many people watching this have seen the footage of a young girl who was 7 years old who was crushed under a roof, I think in Jabalia, and was brought out by some of the heroic first responders and rescue workers in Gaza who will never get nominated for a Nobel Prize like the Israel-backed white helmets in Syria were. And they were trying to calm her down. Her entire family had been killed, and they managed to extract her alive. She died 4 hours later. It's one of the most horrific, harrowing videos I've ever seen, and it's giving me nightmares. And most people in the world, I would say 99% of people in the world, watch that and they think, what if that was my child? Or they think that reminds me of my child. Zionists think, F around and find out. That's what you get. And I think they are people who have castigated themselves, if you can even call them people. They're demons who've castigated themselves from the human family. And so, I don't feel this shame about being Jewish. I just have a different way of going about it than the Zionists. I don't know.
I know you've said this before, but videos like that and videos like the one of Daniela Weiss, like what videos and what content manufactures more anti-Semitism than videos and stories like that?
Yeah. I mean, they want to they want to spawn anti-Semitism because that's what justifies the existence of the state of Israel as a sanctuary for Jews. Without anti-Semitism, how can they justify it? I mean, and we all know that there's no more dangerous place for a Jew to be than inside the militarized, constantly expanding frontiers of Israel. But what would they do without it? What would the ADL do? What would those guys do for work? It's not like Jonathan Greenblatt has any talent in anything else. So they need anti-Semitism to spread. And then they'll pass laws punishing everyone for doing what they have provoked them to do.
Actually, you just reminded me, like a quick story from when I was inside the courtroom. I was there the first time, like the first court appearance, and I told this person who was sitting next to me, who also was from the same NGO that my lawyer was from, but spoke English. And I said, like, listen, I just want to leave Israel. I just want to go back to New York. They're saying 25 years to life. Like, I just want to go to New York. And she said, did you tell your lawyer that? I said, yeah. She said, let me tell the judge. And so she stands up. She's from the same NGO as my lawyer. She tells the judge, listen, he's just a journalist. He wants to go back to New York. Just let him go. Just even deport him. Just send him away. And my lawyer stands up and she says, no, he doesn't mean that. He's not in the right state of mind. He's just really scared. And I'm like, why would you tell the only person here with authority, the judge, that I'm not in the right state of mind? I'm insane. Why would you do that? And she said, because like we are saying you're Jewish and the judge is Zionist. And so the judge won't believe or won't understand a Jew saying he wants to leave Israel. Like, I'm supposed to be happier in my Israeli prison cell as a Jew than away from Israel. So she wouldn't even let me tell the judge that I want to leave Israel. She said, that's not good to tell a Zionist judge. That's not good to tell an Israeli judge. It's just a really demented interaction I had in that courtroom that one day.
Wow.
I've had that interaction with, when I enter, I did a comedy bit about it. It's like, they ask, like, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? And like, when you say you're Jewish, then they want to know if there's a possibility that you will make aliyah and you will become a citizen. And like, once you give them the sense that you're going to do that, then you're immediately waved through. And it doesn't matter if whatever, like you have this record of anti-Israel journalism. And I mean, I'd say, I'm going to see my girlfriend. And they'd be like, are you going to have children? Possibly. I'm like, yeah, we're talking about it. Jewish babies, demographic trench war. We're going to win. But, I just made that up. Obviously, I guess I'm persona non grata. And I'll be coming back the same way, like, Edward Said's grandchildren will be coming back, which is when the regime falls. That's pretty much the only way. And, you know, we'll all go together. We'll drink a single malt with Ali Abu Nima in the village of Lifta, where his family's from. But for now, persona non grata. How does it feel to be persona non grata from the Jewish state?
Yeah, they've left the case is still open. So like, I know that maybe I wasn't formally deported, but the case is open. And so I understand that if I ever tried to go back, I would immediately be detained and be suspected of the same thing I was suspected when the case was open when I was there, which is giving information to an enemy during wartime. So it's a grave offense, and it will scare me away from ever going back to do critical reporting inside of Israel, probably as long as it exists.
Well, you've done some of the most consequential reporting for us at the Grayzone, not only from Israel, Palestine, but also from East Palestine, Ohio. Everyone should check out your video from there, from Lahaina, Hawaii, after the terrible fire engulfed that community. I mean, what I think you do in your videos is you just give people a platform, regular people a platform to say things that are so much more real than what anyone could say on the US corporate networks that are covering the same things. And so the coverage stands out. And it's something that I think we always aim to do at the Grayzone. And what I think should be rewarded is just people who want to go out and do real on the ground journalism. So we are going to be asking everyone who supports us to support Jeremy for another year of this kind of journalism. We'll have a crowdfunding campaign coming up soon. And so we hope you all will contribute to it so we can keep doing this kind of reporting around the world and also here in the US. We definitely need more of it, and it's filling a void. And it's something that people across the political spectrum can relate to. Mm-hmm. So thank you for your courage, and, you know, sorry you had to go through that to get the message out.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but it was just, I even if it was just a fraction of what, you know, Palestinian journalists in the West Bank and in Gaza have been facing, just facing the full might of the Israeli military and penal system is what they face. I face a little bit of it, but like, just to be in solitary confinement with a bunch of Palestinians for just reporting critically on the state of Israel, it gave me tons of insight, and I only hope to use that to, you know, further my my reporting on these on like all of these horrible things happening. And in New York, right here in New York, I got sent back to New York. I live in New York. This is home to Richie Torres and his Bronx district, District 15, New York 15. And he has been gallivanting around, you know, all the kibbutzim in the south of Israel with heads of the IDF, leaving his constituents in the Bronx, which is the poorest district in the country. And so that's something that now that I'm back in New York, I want to focus on, and I want to spend some time in the Bronx and really shine a light where the rest of the media has not been, which is around Richie Torres' district while he's in Israel.
Richie Torres is basically one of the biggest tools of the Israeli government in Congress, representing the poorest district in the United States. Jeremy has been working on a documentary about his district and Richie Torres' neglect of his constituents. So this is what you'll be supporting when you support Jeremy's work going forward. So we will give you the opportunity to support him with, you know, $1, $5, whatever. It's all going to him. You know, thank you again for sharing your story with us, and we're really glad you're back and looking forward to more.
Thank you, guys. Truly.
All right. Jeremy Loffredo.